The rapid erosion of Christian values has occurred due in part to Christians not being vocal enough to stop this wave of wickedness. With the exception of times of revival, this country has always eroded and not improved. So many times Christians are willing to let this wickedness just slide by because we ourselves, and I speak even myself, we all have sin in our lives that we enjoy and that we don't want to rebuke it. And if we want to change the culture, it has to start with us. It has to start in our hearts first. Conservatives have been giving way to this culture for decades, and it's a battle that's been lost in the churches, it's been lost in our hearts, and it needs to stop now. So that brings me to my last point. We should put our trust in God, not man, but also put feet to our prayers. Spiritual fundamentals, or lack thereof, is at the core of our nation's problems. A primary fundamental is the condition of our churches. The church is the pillar and the ground of the truth. The Bible is quite clear about God's role in not only our country, but also in the leaders. In Daniel it says, he changeth the times and the seasons. He removeth kings and setteth up kings. In Proverbs he says, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord as the rivers of water. He turneth it whithersoever he will. On one hand, you can be left feeling a little bit hopeless, since knowing it's a spiritual battle that's going on, it seems like it's out of our hands, but it's really not. What we really need here is revival. And so the question then that you ask is, how do we get there? Well, we need to recognize the need first, but then also the source of revival. In the Bible it says in Psalms, my soul, wait thou upon only God, for my expectation is from him. Later in that chapter it says, God hath spoken once, twice have I heard this, that power belongeth unto God. So I think it becomes real clear that we need to pray for revival. Even in 1 Timothy it says, I exhort therefore that first of all supplications, prayers, intercessions, and giving of thanks be made for all men, for kings and all that are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and honesty. Looking back at history at all the different revivals that have transpired through the ages, not one revival has ever transpired without intense prayer. So it requires us to be praying daily. So what should we be praying for? Our leaders, our pastors, our children, and convictions of our own sins. We should be looking inward and finding that last little bit of darkness that lies in our heart and squeezing it out. That's how revival has always happened. We need to pray for the channels of revival. We should be actively winning souls, ardently witnessing, and constantly vocal about our beliefs. Charles Spurgeon once said, the best attraction is the gospel in its purity. The weapon with which the Lord conquers men is the truth as it is in Jesus. The gospel will be found equal to every emergency, and an arrow which can pierce the hardest heart, a balm which can heal the deadliest wound. So we should not sit back and let wickedness fly unaddressed. We need to call out the evil when we see it. We need to pray for revival, and we need to cleanse our hearts. But last and not least, putting trust in God does not absolve us of our civic responsibility. We must seek to fulfill all of our civic duties and integrate ourselves into the local political process wherever possible and feasible. And that